We took a small August hiatus, getting all the kids back into school. And unfortunately, our one of our guests, David Stark, is already having issues with kids back in school because our Wi-Fi keeps on getting sticky. But we're here to talk about all things property management, landlords, tenants, affordable housing with David Stark, who's the Chief Public Affairs and Communication Officer of the Bay East Association of Realtors, and Leah Slaughter, owner of Omnikey Realty. Leah, I think you guys might be one of the biggest independent property management players in the state of Texas. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about today. We had David on because David resides in an area that has seen some of these legislative priorities go into effect. And so that's what we're talking about today. Nobody's foreign to the fact that, you know, housing affordability across the board, whether it's buying or renting, has been very difficult here lately. And so we have different municipalities that are trying to fix that and figure out, oh, we just lost David, which we thought might happen because another fun fact, hi, Amy. Poor David just found out, got a phone call that his electric utilities were going to be cut off because it's 112 in the Bay Area today. And so they're taking them off the grid. I know we all had kind of experienced that during Snowmageddon. So Leah, I think it's just going to be you and me today, which I know we can fill the space. Our husbands know we can fill the space. So we appreciate you guys tuning in and would love the opportunity for, I think he might be tuning back. If David comes back on, we'll get David back in there. Hi, Kathy. But we are going to be talking about, there he is, David. We did let people know that you were also having some difficulties with your electricity today, and that's another unfortunate circumstance that you guys are going for. But and then Dustin, we miss you, buddy. So David, let's just jump in because we don't know how long we're going to have you with this situation. And so I want to talk about how it was really timely. Of course, our devices are always listening to us, but I had an article shot into my inbox this morning talking about how teachers in your backyard actually can't find affordable housing within a 15-mile radius of the school district. And so the school district has actually been sending an email to the parents asking if they have rooms available for rent for their teachers. Is that fiction, or is stuff like that really going on?
That is not fiction at all. And that's actually one of the more positive solutions that we've seen to the ongoing rental housing crisis here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And frankly, I wish that governmental response to lack of affordable housing and lack of rental housing was as precious as that approach. It is. I mean, that's truly an example of kind of a public-private partnership and a government entity, in this case, a school district, recognizing that the private sector, in this case, individual homeowners, can be part of the solution rather than a government entity just throwing layers and layers of regulations at this crisis, hoping that that's going to help.
So I think that's what we're seeing right now. And on our end, you know, the city of Dallas is trying to be proactive in figuring out there's a major squeeze on the affordable housing. And we want to make sure nobody is sitting here demonizing tenants and propping up landlords at their expense. This is not what this live stream is about. It's about the fact that there are needs. There is a housing and affordability crisis, but unfortunately, sometimes if we overregulate trying to fix it, we can actually exacerbate the problem that we're trying to solve. So David, you know, my question to you is, we kind of discussed that there's some different things that you guys have brought to the table, because I've broken bread with other city officials across the table and have had these conversations with them. Leah, I know you've had the same, of saying, hey, we're all on the same team here. We don't want slumlords, and we want tenants to have, you know, quiet enjoyment and a nice home, you know, and roof over their heads. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to legislate a larger problem, which comes into property taxes, you know, supply chain issues, insurance costs, all of these things that we're all dealing with. So can you give me a couple examples of what you guys have done? Because you are with a realtor association, of trying to say, here's a couple of solutions. Would you listen to?
Well, I think it's that you mentioned something that's very important, and that's solutions. Is that regulators, they're going to regulate. That's what they do, whether it's staff for a local government or it's an elected official. In this space, they want to do something. There are other issues that may come up, say some tax issues, whereas an association, we can actively advocate for, don't do that. Don't enact this tax. Don't, do this crazy inspection program that's not going to accomplish anything. When we get into the space of affordable housing or addressing the rental housing crisis, the option to do nothing is simply not on the table for either municipal staff or the elected officials they work for, or other way around in some cases. So as we've been engaged in this issue now for a number of years, we realized that our position couldn't just be, pay no attention to these tenant and tenant advocates who are talking about these problems. We couldn't just roll up and say, there's no issue here, there's no problem here, go on and deal with something else. We had to have something they could say yes to. There's plenty of very aggressive tenant protection programs, ostensibly tenant protections because they actually harm tenants, that we can say no to, but we had to have something that they could say yes to. So our position has been, let's bring people to the table. So one of the solutions that we've been advocating for is non-binding, voluntary landlord-tenant mediation, in which the municipal government, they can serve as a neutral playing field, bring the parties together, and they can hash out their problems and their disputes. And it's a documented, successful program. We've got one community at City of Fremont. You may not know the name Fremont, but you probably heard Tesla. It's a little car company. Tesla has a manufacturing facility in the city of Fremont, and they have a very successful landlord-tenant mediation program. Again, it's voluntary, non-binding. City of San Leandro, which is right next to Oakland, they also have another one of these programs. And what we found is that just giving tenants the opportunity to speak in a neutral environment really helps to resolve a lot of these problems. Because one of the consistent complaints that we hear from tenants is, I can't talk to my landlord, I'm concerned about retaliation. But when you get the parties together, I think that they find, and the policymakers find, that, hey,